You should be fired up after that press conference, and I mean genuinely excited, not the usual cautious optimism. Christian Parker came out and did something simple but huge. He told us what the defense will look like and how they'll think. And that matters more than any single free agent signing. He made it clear the base shape will be a 3-4 with plenty of variance. Think shifting fronts, for eye alignments, and nickel packages, when the matchup calls for it, which immediately opens the door for the front office and for you to picture how this roster could be rebuilt. That flexibility is the headline, because it means the staff plans to tailor calls to opponents and to the players already on the field, not force everyone into a one-size-fits-all mold. Remember what that felt like last season? Too rigid, too predictable, and way too easy for opponents to gamble. Parker said he wants to scheme to what his players do best, and that's a subtle pivot that can change how we evaluate free agents and draft targets from this point forward. If the defense can show more two-gapping at the line, simulated pressures that actually land, and better gap integrity in run fits, you'll see plays where the unit looks organized instead of overwhelmed. That's the mental image he painted, and it's a real contrast to what a lot of us watched before. Now, I don't want you to think this is wishful thinking without consequence. Parker talked like a teacher, not just a play caller. He emphasized fundamentals: stop the run, affect the quarterback, win first and second down. Those words sound basic, but when a coach makes them non-negotiable and actually drills them, games stop turning into long chains of manageable yards for opponents. And the teaching piece he described, using different methods for different players, even letting a guy get burned in a controlled setting so the lesson sticks, shows he's thinking about how to change behavior, not just call plays. So what does that mean for you as a fan watching off-season chatter? First, it gives us a checklist for roster moves, players who fit for eye alignments, corners who can play man when needed, and a pass rush that allows more aggressive blitz packages. Second, it changes expectations. Not everything will flip overnight, but you can be hopeful that with the right additions and a coach committed to fundamentals, this defense can stop being a liability. Quick poll for you right now. Do you prefer the Cowboys' focus on a flexible system that fits players, or a strict scheme that players must adapt to? Type flexible or strict in the comments, and tell me one reason why. Before you move on, hit that like button if this gives you hope. And make sure you're subscribed to Cowboys News TV so you don't miss our free agent fits and mock targets coming up. Every subscribe helps push us to 17,000 and gets you more breakdowns like this. If you want to support deeper work, drop a super thanks or send a hype. It keeps the channel grinding through tape so we can bring you the details that matter. You heard Parker say it over and over without actually repeating the phrase every sentence. But the message was crystal clear. This defense is going to be built around the players, not the other way around. And that sounds simple, until you remember how often we've watched talented players look uncomfortable, like they were wearing someone else's jersey instead of their own. A player-first defense means you start with what your guys do naturally at a high level, and then build the calls from there. If your corners thrive in press man, you lean into that. If your edge rushers win with speed off the arc, you create angles and simulated pressures that isolate them. If your interior linemen can two-gap an anchor, you structure the front to let them eat space and free up linebackers. That's the kind of flexibility Parker was pointing toward, and it should change how you think about this roster immediately. Picture it like this. Instead of forcing square pegs into round holes, the staff is measuring the pegs first. That affects free agency. That affects the draft board. That affects who stays and who quietly fades into the background. When you run a base 3-4 with hybrid principles, you're asking different body types to handle specific roles. A 4-eye alignment isn't just a buzzword. It's a demand for length, power, and discipline inside. A more aggressive man coverage package demands corners who trust their technique and safeties who communicate like air traffic controllers. So when we start hearing rumors about certain free agent visits or draft prospects, you can filter them through this lens. Does he fit a flexible, player-first defense? And here's where it gets real for you as a fan. A player-first approach also puts pressure on the coaching staff. You can't hide behind the excuse that this is just our system. If a guy struggles, the question becomes, did you adjust? Did you tailor the call? Did you put him in position to succeed? That accountability runs both ways. The players have to execute, but the coaches have to adapt. That's what makes this shift feel different. It's not just a new playbook. It's a different philosophy of responsibility. Now let me ask you something directly. Which current Cowboy benefits the most from a defense that adapts to strengths instead of forcing structure? Name one player in the comments and tell me why. Is it a corner who can finally play? More press? An edge rusher who can move around? A linebacker who needs cleaner run fits? I want your take. And if you're locked in on roster construction like this, make sure you're subscribed right now. We're building toward 17,000 strong in Cowboys Nation on Cowboys News TV. And every subscriber strengthens this community. Hit like if you believe a player-first defense is the right move. If you want this channel to keep diving into scheme fits, draft traits, and free agent targets, drop a super thanks or send a hype. That support fuels the breakdowns. It keeps the tape rolling. Because here's the truth. Philosophy sounds good in a press conference, but the roster decisions that follow will tell you if it's real. And that's where this conversation shifts next. If flexibility is the blueprint and players are the foundation, then the day-to-day habits, the fundamentals, are the cement that holds it all together. That's where games are actually won or lost. If philosophy is the blueprint and roster fit is the framing, then fundamentals are the bricks. And last season, too many of those bricks were cracked. Parker didn't dodge that reality. He leaned straight into it. Stop the run. Affect the quarterback. Win on first and second down. Maintain gap integrity. Tackle, those aren't flashy phrases. They don't trend on social media. But they win games in December. Think about how many times you watched opponents live in 2nd and 4, 3rd and 2, never really feeling pressure. That's not just about talent. That's about discipline. Gap integrity is not optional in a multiple front. If one defender freelances, the whole structure collapses, like a house with a missing support beam. Parker emphasized not playing hero football. That's a subtle but powerful line. It means do your job. Trust the guy next to you and let the scheme work. When that clicks, the defense moves as one unit, instead of 11 individuals chasing the same ball carrier from bad angles. And then there's tackling. It sounds elementary until you realize how often missed tackles turn manageable gains into drive-extending chunks. Tackling is technique, leverage, and want to all fuse together. If this staff truly drills it daily, you'll notice the difference quickly. Drives stall earlier. 3rd downs get longer. The pass rush gets unleashed because the offense can't stay ahead of the sticks. What stood out even more was how Parker talked about teaching. Not just installing plays, but actually teaching. Different players absorb information differently. Some need film. Some need reps. Some need to fail in a controlled setting, so the lesson sticks. That tells you he's thinking about retention, not just presentation. A defensive coordinator who understands how people learn can accelerate development. Young players grow faster. Veterans refine details instead of plateauing. Here's a question for you, and I want a real answer in the comments. Which non-negotiable matters most? Right now for this defense, tackling, gap integrity, or pass rush? Pick one and defend it. There's no wrong answer, but your reasoning says a lot about how you see this team evolving. Now let's have a locker room moment. Cowboys Nation, this is where you decide whether you're just watching or you're part of the build. If you believe fundamentals are the true reset button, hit like right now. If you want more breakdowns that cut through buzzwords and focus on what actually wins games, subscribe and help us push to 17,000 strong. And if you're serious about backing this channel, drop a super thanks. That's you stepping into the huddle and saying you're all in. Every bit of support keeps the analysis sharp and consistent, all off-season long, because here's the reality. Culture is not a speech. It's repetition. It's accountability. It's correction. If Parker brings that daily edge, this defense won't just look different on a whiteboard. It'll feel different on Sundays. And that leads to the final piece of this conversation. Talk is powerful. Teaching is critical. But results are the standard. Now it comes down to the part that separates excitement from reality. Press conferences can light a spark, but roster moves, draft picks, and Sundays in the fall decide whether that spark becomes a fire or fades into smoke. If Christian Parker's vision is real, then the next steps have to align with it. Free agency needs to reflect the scheme. The draft board needs to reflect the scheme. Rotations, sub-packages, and situational calls need to reflect the scheme. That's how you know this isn't just off-season optimism. If the defense is truly going to lean into a flexible 3-2-4 structure with hybrid principles, then you should expect personnel that fits those demands. Length and power, inside edges, who can rush from different angles, corners comfortable on an island when needed, linebackers who diagnose quickly and trust their fits, and most importantly, a rotation deep enough to keep the front fresh in the fourth quarter, because no scheme survives if the trenches collapse late. Let's be honest with each other. Last season set a low bar in several key defensive metrics. That's not an insult. That's a fact. So improvement does not require perfection. It requires competence, discipline, and consistency. If this unit can move from the bottom tier to middle of the pack in run defense and situational efficiency, that alone changes the complexion of games. Suddenly, the offense isn't chasing deficits. Suddenly, field position tilts. Suddenly, momentum swings the other direction. Here's where I want your temperature check. Are you buying stock in this defensive turnaround? Type buy or sell in the comments and tell me why. Not emotion. Give me football reasons. Scheme fit, coaching, philosophy, personnel confidence. Lay it out, because this is the crossroads moment for Cowboys Nation. You can sit back and wait to see it, or you can lock in and follow every move. With purpose. That's what we do here on Cowboys News TV. We break it down before it happens, so when it unfolds, you understand why. If you've stayed with me this far, you're not a casual viewer. You care about how the pieces connect. So here's the locker room talk. Cowboys Nation, this channel runs on the same thing Parker says his defense will run on: fundamentals and commitment. If you believe in building something smarter, stronger, and more disciplined, hit like right now. That's you tapping the helmet and saying you're ready. Subscribe and help us reach 17,000 strong. That number is not just a milestone. It's proof that this community is growing and serious about football. And if you want to go even further, drop a super thanks or send a hype. That's you stepping up and fueling the film sessions, the draft breakdowns, the free agency deep dives. Every bit of support keeps this engine running. Because here's the promise. We're not stopping at press conference reactions. We're tracking the draft fits. We're evaluating free agent signings. We're measuring improvement in real time. And when this defense takes the field, you'll know exactly what to watch for. Now tell me this before we close it out. Realistic goal for this defense: playoff caliber unit or division winning backbone? Choose one and defend it.